Having little children means that very often we have to drop them at birthday parties. And there's so many different types of birthday parties. Birthday parties with a princess theme, and birthday parties with a war theme, and birthday parties with a movie theme, and so it goes on and on and on. And the question that's often been asked is, what do Jews feel about birthdays? Should we celebrate birthdays? Is there any indication anywhere in the Bible or in the rabbinic writings that we should celebrate birthdays? And it actually is a subject of quite a lot of debate. Not mentioned often in the Talmud at all, if ever, but mentioned, interestingly enough, in the last 3 centuries, mostly by the Hasidic writings. The starting point of many is to try to find a birthday celebration in the Torah. And in fact, there is a birthday celebration. It's the only one mentioned. And it's at the end of this week's parasha, when the Torah tells us, Yom Huledet et Paro, that it was the day that Pharaoh was celebrating his birthday, and he had a big banquet. And at his banquet, he called his servants, and 2 of the servants had been in prison, the butler and the baker. And he called the butler and he said, you know what? I'm reinstating you. You've got your position back. You can serve me once again. The butler was incredibly relieved, and he was able once again to serve wine to the king. But he called the baker and he said, you have not been forgiven. And because of the sin that you did, which in fact was that a little bit of stones got caught up in the baked goods that he had served Pharaoh, he said, I'm going to execute you. And that's exactly what he did, and the poor man was beheaded. So on his birthday party, Pharaoh celebrated by executing somebody. This is the only birthday party that is mentioned at all in the Tanakh. How should we celebrate birthday parties? There's a famous writer, Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov, who lived first in Europe and then spent the rest of his life in Israel. He was a very imaginative and creative thinker. He wrote many, many books. He wrote Sefer HaToda'ah, the book of our heritage. He wrote a Haggadah. And in one of his books, The Jew and His Home, HaYehudi Ubeito, he speaks about birthday parties. And in his experience, and he came from a Hasidic background, he felt that Jews should not celebrate birthday parties. And he gave a very interesting rationale. There's a verse in the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, where King Solomon says something that appears rather morbid. He says, better the day of death than the day of one's birth. And the Midrash in Kohelet gives an illustration to prove this point. It says that there was a particular day at the harbor, at the port, and there were 2 ships. One ship was about to go out on its maiden voyage, and the other ship was coming back from a voyage out at sea. For the new ship that was going out on the maiden voyage, there were hundreds of people gathered. There was a celebration, there was ribbons. A lady was going to take a bottle of champagne and smash it against the boat, and it would go out into the sea, and everybody was so happy and celebrating. They were going out on this cruise. And then for the other ship that was coming back from a regular voyage, there was nobody there, maybe just the crew at the harbor to help it offload. And a wise man was watching the scene unfold, and he thought to himself, you know, everything is mixed up over here. It should be the other way around. There should be a much bigger crowd to welcome in the ship that's come back from a successful mission. Because the ship that's going out on its maiden voyage, how do you know that it's going to be successful? Maybe it's going to sink like the Titanic. Maybe it's never going to reach its destination. You don't know what's going to become of it. But when the ship comes into port, the new ship, that's when we should celebrate. And this is what Rabbi Eliyahu Kitov explained. When a child is born, it's going out on its maiden voyage. You don't know what that child is going to be. You don't know whether they're going to produce a lot or become a righteous person or keep the level that they've reached. Every year is a complete doubt what's going to be with this person. But when a person passes away, that's when you can celebrate, as it were, and see that what person achieved. And therefore, he says, what is the point of celebrating a birthday party? Everything is still in doubt. Wait until the end of a person's life. And that's what King Solomon meant when he said, better the day of death than the day of life. Because once a person has passed away, then we know for sure what they achieved. They're not in doubt whatsoever. And this is his famous opinion. There are others who say, yes, absolutely, we should celebrate birthdays. And birthdays are milestones. And in fact, even in Pirkei Avot, we find that the sages listed significant birthdays. When a boy turns 13, his bar mitzvah. When somebody turns 20, they should go and look for a living. When a person turns 30, they acquire strength. And they list of all of these different decades and milestones in a person's life. So, of course, from that point of view, birthday parties are important. But whether there's an absolute requirement for Jews to celebrate birthdays, I think the jury is still out. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.